Okay, and we are now recording. So this is a tool. We are going to cover Ayurvedic nutrition and Ahara plans. We're not covering this entire presentation. We're only going to be covering the first 12 slides of it. So our time should be around 40 to 45 minutes. And then after this, there's another segment that Monica is going to take over. So what are the things that we're going to cover? We're going to talk about diet protocols, and really that's just about as far as we're going to go today. We're not going to cover the other parts, the food and mind, case study form, and digestive disorders from a Western perspective. So we're covering part of this. So let us, without further ado, start talking about diet protocols. So what is a light diet for Vata? So we're going to talk specifically about things that would be good for Vata. That would be a light diet. So grains that might be good for Vata might include whole wheat flour, things that are made from whole wheat flour like crackers, unleavened bread, tortilla, pita bread, semolina, couscous, rice could be steamed or boiled. Rice could be used in a soup. You can use rice flakes. If you're not already familiar with how rice flakes can be used, you can get what's called poha. Poha are basically rice that has been flattened. It's also sometimes called flat rice, and it comes in a dry form, and there's thin poha and thick poha. And basically, you rinse it, and almost as soon as you rinse it, it becomes soft. So it's basically kind of like you can make an instant breakfast with the rice flakes. You rinse the rice flakes, you heat some ghee in a pan, you add some spices, you could add some peanuts and some very light vegetables, and then you add the rinsed the rinsed poha and add a little bit of salt, and it's basically done. Oats could be prepared in water, or you can also you can make them more watery. You can actually make something that you can make oats that are the consistency of dal. And that is very interesting. We're used to having oatmeal, of course, and oatmeal is nice, but sometimes oatmeal becomes a very sweet thing. And in the West, we tend toward a lot of sweet stuff, which is not always the healthiest choice. So you can also make an oat water that is sort of the consistency of dal. You boil some oats in water, and then you can even make a chunk with heat some oil, add spices, and add salt and ginger. Legumes that are good for Vata, yellow mung beans are the best. They're easy to digest. Vata persons are not necessarily going to have a strong digestion. You can make yellow mung into dal, or you can cook them with rice and make a khichdi. You can make them just a little bit more watery for Vata. Vegetables should be well cooked. You can have them in a, with some rus, with some liquid. They can be a little brothy. And use warming Vata spices, and you want to choose from Vata-friendly options. Fruits should be ripe, and they should be in season. You want to, again, use Vata-friendly options, but ideally the fruits should be cooked or stewed in water, and dried fruit should be soaked. Having things that are completely dry is not going to be great for Vata. Dairy products, ghee, milk, goat's milk, buttermilk, lassi, It should be room temperature or warm. Cold dairy products are not going to be good for Vata. Vata persons will tend toward being somewhat cold, so you want things to be warming. You use warming spices, and you have things that are room temperature or warm. Goat's milk is also tends to be somewhat Vata in nature. It is also somewhat warming. And a lassi, of course, is you can make a drink. You can take yogurt and add some water, a little bit of salt. It can also be a sweet lassi, but you can add some salt and a little bit of black pepper. That makes a digestive drink. Oils, you can use just about all oils except coconut in small amounts. Sweeteners, only honey is not recommended. Just about all sweeteners can be used in small amounts. Spices and condiments that are favorable would include cumin, ginger, fenugreek, hing, mustard seeds, cinnamon, cardamom, fennel, cloves, salt, lemon juice, and tamarind, all others in small amounts. Again, when we talk about the things that are favorable for a particular prakriti, what we're really meaning is you can use everything, but these are the things you use more proportion of. This is how we change the balance. So when we cook, we use a variety of things. Here's how it works basically. When we cook, we use a variety of spices that complement and balance for all doshas. And if we are trying to make something that's going to be more favorable for Vata, then we can use a little bit more of these things that are listed and less of other things. That's basically how it works. Okay, so let's talk about the light diet for Pitta. So grains can include things like tortillas or pita breads, semolina, couscous. You can have things made from whole wheat, crackers, and various unleavened breads are always going to be preferable to yeast breads. Sourdough breads, of course, are another alternative, which I think are also somewhat healthier than yeast breads. Some people nowadays do develop a sensitivity to yeast breads. So, unleavened breads are simple, and they are actually, they're, especially when freshly cooked, they are very healthful and easy to digest. You can make the dough and keep it in the fridge, and then it's actually pretty quick to make, to make roti. Rice can be steamed or boiled in a soup. Again, rice flakes or poha, as mentioned before. Oats can be prepared in water or milk, and you can make it a little bit more watery. You can also prepare barley. You can make soup with barley. And you can also have light things like soup, crackers, unleavened bread. Legumes, mung beans can be made in a dal preparation with rice or in a soup. We made a very nice soup yesterday, a sambar with tur dal and vegetables, and it was really ideally good for kapha. It also good for pitta. It was Tridoshic, but mung beans are going to be the easiest to digest. If we're trying to do a light diet that will be easy to digest, easy for persons to handle, even if their digestion is not strong or if they're not in a great balance, then this is what we're sticking with, the easiest things here. Vegetables should be well cooked. They should be, there should be some liquid with it, and use pitta cooling spices and pitta friendly vegetables. Things like cruciferous vegetables, broccoli and cauliflower, those are going to be good. Potatoes, root vegetables also are fairly pitta friendly. Fruits should be ripe and in season. Sometimes having the fruits cooked or stewed may be preferable. Dairy products, ghee, milk, goat's milk, buttermilk, lassi with rose water is excellent for pitta. It is very cooling by nature. You can make a rose lassi by adding, say, 1 part of yogurt to 3 parts water. You add a little bit of sugar, just enough to sweeten it, and add some rose water. And the rose water gives it a fragrance. You do not have to add the color, just the fragrance of rose gives a fragrant flavor, and it is also cooling. It has a cooling effect. Especially in hot weather, I also like, I like to bathe with soap that has natural rose essence as well. That is very helpful for me. I use the Dr. Bronner's Rose Essential, very natural soap for bathing, and that actually works well for me, although I am Pitta Kapha. Definitely I'm afflicted somewhat by skin problems in very hot weather, and Central Texas gets very hot in the summer. Oils, ghee is preferable for pitta, and sunflower is okay, and other oils, but only for cooking. Olive oil also I find is very agreeable for me for pitta. Sweeteners, turbinado sugar or honey in small amounts. Spices and condiments. Coriander is cooling, so coriander powder, and again, when we cook Tridoshic, we use a lot of coriander powder. Coriander powder is something you use a lot of. It's a very mild spice, and it is very cooling in nature, and I will use more coriander powder in summertime in hot weather. And especially if you are trying to make a diet that's favorable for pitta persons, you're going to definitely use a lot of coriander powder. Some cumin, small amounts of ginger, you do not want to overdo it. Turmeric, fennel, cinnamon, cardamom, lemon juice, these are all things that are favorable for pitta. Again, this is not to say that you don't use other things. Of course, we use things like hing and black pepper and so forth. We might use just a little tiny bit less. Okay, so that's the basic idea there for pitta. For kapha, what types of things might we use? Well, so whole grains are going to be good. So we can use whole wheat flour in, in crackers and unleavened bread, tortillas, pita breads, couscous, steamed or boiled rice, poha or rice flakes, oats. You want to make things a little bit less watery for the kapha. Barley, you can use, soup and crackers and make preparations with barley. Legumes, you can use mung beans made as a dal. You can also use them in a rice dish like khichdi. You can make the legumes a little bit less watery or brothy and use a lot of warming kapha spices. Very similar to what you might do for vata. Except vata persons will do better having a little bit more broth. Kapha persons can have less. Vegetables, use cooked vegetables that are kapha pacifying. They do not need to be as thoroughly cooked as for vata. You should have fruits that are ripe and in season, and try to choose kapha friendly options. In general, cooked is a little better with kapha spices. There's also spice mixes that are used for having raw fruits, for raw cut fruits. Chaat masala is actually based on some Ayurvedic digestive mixtures. You can buy it in any Indian store. It has a variety of things that are helpful for digesting. So you might try that. It is it has a little bit of black salt, it has pepper, it has long pepper or pipali, it has amchur, it has hing, it has a variety of spices, and you basically sprinkle it on cut fruit. So, you could take apples and bananas and cut them up and put them on a plate and sprinkle them with a touch of lemon juice and a little bit of chaat masala. And this is a very popular snack in India, fruit chaat. And that's what the chaat masala is for. Dairy products, you want to use them sparingly for kapha persons, and especially if kapha persons are trying to reduce, trying to lose weight. It tends to be a struggle when we have more kapha in our prakriti. We will always have a struggle with trying to keep our weight down to a manageable point. So dairy products, a little bit less. Oils used sparingly. You want to avoid heavier sweet oils. Olive oil has more vata in it, and it has a little bit of astringency. Extra virgin olive oil is a good go-to oil for kapha persons. Sweeteners, use raw honey in very small amounts. You can use many spices, just about all spices except salt, and pungent and sharp spices, black pepper, pipali, ginger, chilies. These are all things that are going to be good. They're going to be helpful for kapha digestion. So the key word with kapha is that everything is a bit slow moving. Everything is a bit sluggish. Kaphas will tend to be a bit slow to get started in the morning. They do not take travel well. Their digestion may not be that strong. And so, for kapha, you want to help digestion move along. Western nutrition focuses very much on the ingredients. What are the ingredients from a chemical perspective that we are putting in? Ayurveda focuses on digestion. How are we assimilating? And in the assimilation process, the kapha prakriti is going to need a little bit more help. That's the basic idea. So what is a diet protocol for reducing ama? Now remember, what is ama? So ama is produced by what? When what is not working right? What is the thing that when it is not working right produces ama? So you can go ahead and put your answer in the chat window there. What is that thing when it is not working right produces ama? Yeah, okay, let's hear. Anyone else? Let's hear your answers. So I'll give you a hint. The Sanskrit word for stomach is amashaya. Amashaya means the abode or the home of ama. So these are all good answers. I think the best answer is, the general and best answer is to say when digestion is not working properly. These are all things that are causative factors. Low Agni means your digestion is not working right, so that's correct. Intestinal issues also will tend to produce ama, but more ama is going to be produced when the primary digestion in the stomach is not working right. And then we actually do not get things getting broken down and moved into the intestines. So it's the Agni needs to be functioning, Agni needs to be in balance, and then we have less ama produced. Now, ama is a big issue because people sometimes have a diet that is, let's say, high in protein, and they're getting nutrients that they need. And according to Western nutrition, oh, that's good, fine, that's beautiful, that's exactly all that we need. They're getting your minimum daily requirement. But from the Ayurvedic perspective, if you are not digesting all of that, if your Agni is not up to it, and you are having more than you can digest, that means you are producing more ama. So forget about the nutritional value, you are producing ama. And this is especially going to be true if someone is having things, animal matter, having things like more meat and not being able to digest it completely is definitely producing more ama. It is producing more toxins. The same is true even if you have a vegetarian diet and you are eating more than you can digest. You can produce a lot of ama, especially in, say, hot weather when your digestion might be not as fiery. So things that you want to do. So symptoms of having more ama might include, some symptoms might include having low agni, chronic fatigue, the tongue is coated, feeling lethargic. These are all symptoms that there is ama that needs to be reduced. So you might want to recommend this type of diet to someone who is rejuvenating after panchakarma, who's recovering from illness, who's trying to lose weight, and they need kind of to change their metabolism, someone who's having digestive issues, etc. So what would you do for reducing ama? So definitely cut out things that are not plant-based, because you want to make, okay, so think about it. Think about the causative factor. The causative factor of producing ama is that your digestion is not working right and your agni is low. So what do? I have a problem. I've got a fire and my fire is kind of low. So the things that I'm throwing in the fire are putting the fire out, and then they sit there and rot, and that rotten stuff is making a bad smell. I'm giving a kind of a real world paradigm for what's happening with your digestion. So the first thing is, let's try to get that fire burning more brightly, and I'm going to say, let's put things that are easier and faster to burn. Let's put some paper and cardboard. Let's put some lighter stuff. We're not going to put really heavy, thick slabs of wet wood in the fire. We're going to put really light stuff that's easy to burn. We're going to reduce the wheat and milk. And you want to have the same thing every day for a specified period of time, maybe for a couple of weeks. Give your body a chance to adjust. Something that's really light and easy to digest. Having a fruit stew for breakfast, having a khichdi for lunch, and a dinner with dosa with some appropriate veggies and spices. You can have things for snacks like a hot broth, small amount of mung dal, drink hot water, have kashaya, etc. These are all things that are going to be really light. And the difficult part of adjustment sometimes is mental, when we feel like, oh my God, I've got to get more stuff. I've got to make my stomach full. Otherwise, I do not feel satisfied. And that is a mental thing that has to be overcome. The stomach actually works better when it's not stuffed full. The stomach is a stretchable bag, right? So if you are stuffing the stomach full, it gets used to the sensation of being stuffed full. And that's actually very bad. In yoga practice, people will sometimes adhere to never fill the stomach more than halfway. So you can fill the stomach no more than halfway with food, and then another quarter of the way with water, and you leave 1/4 for air. And that is sometimes a recommended yogic practice. If we follow that practice, never more than half full of food, then that is actually going to be beneficial. Oftentimes, people don't do that. Maybe we're eating out, we're eating with friends, it's a social occasion, and we fill up. We eat more than we have to because we like the taste of things, and we just eat more than is needed. But eating less is a good habit. And this ama reducing diet, this is all very light things. They should be easy. And the difficult part, again, is going to be the mental part. Oh my God, I don't feel like I had enough. Well, just, tell your body you've had enough. Digest. If you feel hungry before the next meal, that's a good sign. That means that your agni is waking up, right? So let us look at an example. So, here's a 7-day diet plan, and, things that might be examples. So, some days are given for kapha. So, for example, we've got a Sunday plan here that is for, for a kapha person. Having an apple stew with spices for breakfast, and having a whole mung bean khichdi with brown rice, veggies, and hot spices for lunch. and then having a roasted vegetable snack, having soup at dinner, a very light dinner, because, you know, eating a lot before you go to bed, what's going to happen? What are you doing when you're sleeping? Is your digestion working hard? Well, it shouldn't be. If your digestion is working hard, what's the thing you're not going to be doing well? If your digestion is working hard at night, what's the thing you will not be doing well? What is the thing you will not be doing well if your digestion is working hard at night? That is one of the 3 pillars of health according to Ayurveda. Anyone? Exactly. Yes. Yes, Shujan again is right on the money there. Sleeping, we will not be having good sleep. So dinner time, you know, middle of the day ideally should be the main meal. Dinner time should be very light. Now pitta person example, that, you know, they are having something more for breakfast. Pitta persons, it will tend to have a stronger Agni, stronger digestion, and if they do not get fed, they can be grouchy. So morning, have a strawberry chutney with some rice crepes and that's made with ghee. You know, that'll be good. That's something. And this is, again, this is a reducing diet. This is a cleansing diet. So, you know, this is the person who just can't go with just having a little bit of, you know, some stewed fruit with spices. They're going to have something. For lunch, you can have a khichdi with rice, some veggies, and having cooling and Agni decreasing spices, because the digestion just might be really strong. For a snack, have some veggie broth, a cup of dal, some rose jam, sunflower seeds, almonds roasted in ghee, maybe milk with turmeric and cardamom. These are all things that are going to be easy to digest. For dinner, a little bit of khichdi with rice, some veggies with spices. These, you know, these are things that are going to be easy to digest. When I say easy to digest, means that maybe you eat an hour and a half or so before going to bed, and you have really almost completely or completely digested before you lie down to go to sleep. That's the whole idea. Example for Vata, you know, at morning they might have mung dal crepes made with ghee. Those are chilla. You can make, you know, or you can make mung dal dosa. We have YouTube videos on how to do that. Lunch, khichdi with rice, having some grounding veggies, definitely some root veggies, and Vata balancing warming spices. For a snack, veggie broth or a cup of dal with ghee, nuts roasted with ghee, milk with ghee and nutmeg. And dinner before bed, khichdi with rice, veggies, and spices. You know, and some other examples have also been given, things that you might have. You know, these are very light breakfast options. Obviously, you can adjust these things according to the person, but the idea is that when ama has increased, we may have a habit of filling our stomachs and eating more, and now we are trying to reduce and give the Agni a chance to come back up. You know, we want to stop dumping a lot of things on the fire. But this is an example of, you know, kind of a diet plan that might be made up, and you need to do something that, you know, so the person is willing to do. Usually if people are suffering the results of excessive ama, then they are usually very willing to try something different and to do something different. So there should not have to be a lot of convincing. Fasting. Now, really, what are we talking about when we're talking about fasting? You know, people talk about fasting nowadays. When I lived in the ashram, you know, there would be fasting days regularly. So usually Western fasting and detox will tend to reduce Agni, and it will push the ama deeper into the tissues. So if you are trying to do a very aggressive fast, let's say, all right, I'm only going to drink water for a week. You know, that's a very aggressive fast, and it's not actually going to necessarily help get rid and release ama. And then also digestion does not get deliberately rekindled. So ama can build up or become worse. Again, think of the example. It is like saying, all right, so I have this fire and I've been dumping too much garbage on the fire, so now I'm just going to stop. I'm going to leave all that garbage there and I'm not going to do anything. What's going to happen? The fire is going to go out. I actually need to feed the fire. I want the fire to keep going. I just have to lighten the load. Instead of dumping big slabs of wet wood and dumping trash on the fire, I'm going to feed it some dry paper and dry cardboard and dry kindling and try to make the fire come up while I'm giving it a lighter load. And once I get that blazing brightly, then I can start being sensible about what I do. So the concept of fasting, according to Ayurveda, it's not just going cold turkey without food. It means that we reduce, and we do a reducing diet. So let's talk about that reducing diet from the perspective of the various prakritis. So for vata, have fresh orange juice and have other juices or fruit during regular meal times only. Add some warming vata spices. And fast for 2 to 3 consecutive meals, only 1 day per week. And cut out snacking. So this is according to Ayurveda. This will be fasting for vata. So maybe only 2 or 3 consecutive meals you fast, and instead of having your regular meal, just have some fresh juice or fruit during the regular meal time. And avoid snacking. Have water that is hot or room temperature. You can also consider fasting on specific days. For Saturday, to pacify Saturn energy related issues, things that might involve weakness of muscles, bones, and joints. Monday for moon energy if there are emotional issues involved. Thursday for Mercury energy. When we're trying to calm or pacify particular things, some days have a different energy, and that is something that varies from one person to the next. Fasting for pitta, things that will be good are pomegranate juice. Pomegranate juice is very good for pitta. Fruit, carrot, romaine, and celery juices also are good. And have those during your regular meal times. You can add cilantro or other pitta cooling herbs and spices. Again, fast for 3 to 4 consecutive meals, only 1 or 2 days per week. Pittas can handle a little bit more fasting. Vatas are not really built for fasting. Avoid snacking. Just plain water is fine. Pittas might fast on Tuesday to pacify Mars energy, or Sunday to pacify Sun energy. And finally, kapha. What are kapha fasting recommendations? So a kapha might fast on apple juice or similar juices or fruits. Carrot juice, romaine lettuce juice, celery juices, and have those during the regular meal times. Add some kapha warming and drying spices. Kaphas should only fast for 3 to 6 consecutive meals, 1 or 2 days per week only. That basically means, 1 or 2 days per week, you are going to not skip meals, you're going to substitute having some fresh fruit or juices. Avoid snacking. Hot water is okay. Some people will recommend taking hot water with a little bit of raw honey and lemon or apple cider vinegar. Fasting on Thursday may help to pacify Jupiter energy, which would help with balancing blood sugar and reducing sugar cravings and overindulgence. So that's it basically. So to recap, all of these things, ama reducing and dealing with the symptoms of ama, and the fasting, which is a remedy for overproduction of ama, is always taken into consideration. Think of the analogy of trying to build a fire. You want the fire to grow. If you just go full on, I'm just going to do a juice fast for a week. And you know, you can do that. People do that. People do long fasts, especially if they are trying to do some extreme turnaround and detox. And you'll find people who are going to say, hey, I did this and it was great. And I've done that also. I did a juice and raw fruit fast for an entire month, but I was much younger. It would not be recommended according to Ayurveda. And if you do something like that, you have to rebuild your Agni and get Agni going again. Because remember, you have to have Samagni, Samadosha Samagnishcha, Sama Dhatu Malakriya. This is the definition of good health according to Ayurveda. Your doshas are balanced, your Agni is balanced, and your dhatus are balanced, as well as your malakriya, your elimination of waste. You know, the other thing, of course, in fasting is one has to have good amounts of water, because you want ama to be released by your tissues and carried out of the body. And this will only happen when Agni is working, and then you are able to flush it out and help with elimination and have things that have fiber in them. Because if you just went, you know, cold turkey, complete fast, then it simply means that all the ama that's in there is going to get absorbed into the tissues, and it's going to be harder to get it out. So that's the basic idea. Any questions there? And we've really just about come to the end of the time for this segment. Okay, so I hope that that was interesting. I am going to hand things over and stop recording.